Good evening and welcome to Laughing Monkey Music Show. Today we're on Uli. Uli, welcome back. You've been on before. I'm a big fan of you. How are you?
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm fine. A little bit under the weather. I picked up a bit of a cold on one of these cruise ships in the Baltic Sea, going up to Sweden, etc. What can you expect, So I came back with a cold and I haven't been able to shake it yet. So my mind is not quite that sharp. Not that it's ever sharp, but it's even less sharp than
A little less dull.
normal.
It's well, it's interesting. Actually, basic question before we hop into the touring thing is some musicians love to play on the high seas and do these gigs, and some of them like they're landlocked and they don't want to go because they feel like they don't. Some people just don't like being on boats. How
Oh
are you
no,
about
I
that?
mean I love it. I've got no problem. I've done so many cruises, starting with no, even before 70,000 times. The
Yeah,
first one was in 2011, I think. I've done so many, and to me, it's like, another day at the office. I feel at home
right.
on these ships. There's pros and cons, and usually I enjoy the trips.
Yeah. I was always against it, and every time I talk to somebody, an artist, they're like, "You should do it. You'd love it because all the bands you love." I'm like, "I think I'm gonna do it. I
And
think I'm gonna do it."
not everybody loves it. I mean, there are
Right.
some people who don't like it. There's also a lot of artists who are very guarded about their privacy. They
Yes.
don't go to the communal kind of eating, or they don't go to the bar in the evening with everybody. And of
Yeah.
course, if you're that type, then it will probably be quite taxing, because then you're cooped up in your suite or whatever it is, or sometimes it's a smaller room with a balcony, sometimes maybe even without a balcony. And I've been told that some bands even have indoor rooms where, like basically just a room without windows.
Ugh.
And then if you don't mingle with the people, I would guess it gets a little bit
I think
claustrophobic.
I think I think that's it. You hit it on the
Boring.
nose. I think you hit it on the nose. To me, the only thing I was almost ready to take the go to the cruises, and that Netflix special came out, that the poop cruise when everything got backed up, and then that trip it had all these horrible things happen to it. I'm like, oh my god, that would be my worst nightmare. But I digress. Let's talk about your tour because you are a nonstop touring machine. I don't think. Do you ever take breaks?
Recently, I didn't have enough breaks, and yeah, I just returned yesterday from a long stint, and it's like heavenly to be home with my cats, and be able to be creative again.
Hmm.
So yeah, I can't wait for the next 10
Next
days.
break.
I,
Is it easier? Do you are you one of the kind of person that creates when you're on the road also, or do you have to just be on the
I'm
road
always
and focus?
creative in the sense that I've always got something to do, and I love having my computer, and so I do things. Very often when you're on the road, it's also stuff like you have to answer emails, you have to do that, you have to do that. The real creative stuff, I get much more done when I'm at home in peace and quiet, whether
Yeah,
it's oil painting and I'm in my studio, or whether it's writing new music. The best stuff comes to me when I'm at home and at complete peace
yeah.
and away from the world, in the middle of nowhere. That's the way I like it, you
It's
know.
funny. It was hard. You're hard to talk to because there's so many creative things you do. So for someone like me to pivot, I'm like, you're right. You do oil paint, and on your website you have some great prints of things you've painted. Like there's so many things you do to talk about because you're so multifaceted. So it's a good problem to have as if, as an artist, but as an
Yeah,
interviewer, it's hard
yeah,
for me.
for
So I'm
some
like,
people it's maybe too much, because yes, I am multifaceted and I've always been that way and I always wanted to be that way. I got bored very easily to do the one trick pony thing. Is never my thing, but it does confuse people, So suddenly,
right,
okay, now he's an author, and he's got this really big book. Oh, now here's a bunch of new oil paintings, and then also my albums, whatever I recorded in my life, every album was completely different from the previous one. So it's not that I work to a formula and then, you're basically going to a pizza restaurant and you get pizza marinara or
Yeah.
pizza quattro stagioni, but still pizza. With me, you'll get the full deal. You might get Chinese, you might get Indian, and all mixed up in a weird way. And it's not for everybody that I come with a broad spectrum, but it is what I like, and it is what I am.
I think that's true to you, Ben, because I think the bravery when you left early Scorpions, it could have been successful to do what you wanted to do because it wasn't about that. And that's one of the things I dig about you is you're like, I did this. And by doing that, it allowed you to do other things. And you've continued to do that. And it's the only thing that's allowed you to grow as an artist. Otherwise, you would have been stifled. And that's the same attitude that even to now. So with this, so let's talk about the tour you're doing right now. What was the prep for this, and what are we looking forward to? Because you're in the U.S. now. You'll be doing the S tour.
Yeah, the gist of it is, first of all, I have to say we're doing 2 shows in one. Every evening, we're doing a first set, 1.5 hours, which is completely different from the second half. The first half is devoted to my new music and a lot of stuff that has not been released yet. We've just premiered it in Japan, and now we're going to bring it to the States. I'm also it's more symphonically minded. You could call it symphonic rock,
Mhm.
maybe, if for want of a better word. I'm also playing some classical pieces. I'm playing a couple
Okay.
of Mozart pieces on the guitar and with orchestra backing, and um, uh, one of my Vivaldi's Four Seasons pieces. But it's mainly my own, and to complement it, I made all these oil paintings that go with the music. And most of the tracks also have a movie attached, which runs in sync. So it's a very much a visual kind of thing, a little bit like a trip to the IMAX. I like that, a 360-degree thing. So my oil paintings are based on the songs or the lyrics or certain ideas, and they're like a thread going, holding it all together, and we're
Mhm.
displaying them on the screen or maybe even in the foyer sometimes. Um, Now it's called Pictures of Destiny because I used to paint in the late 80s, but I had to give it up because I had developed an allergy against the paint solvents.
Oh
And
no.
started getting, yeah, heavy stomach cramps after 1 hour. So eventually I gave up because of that. Then in recent times, I found out that nowadays they create solvents that are very user friendly. And I started using them, and lo and behold, I didn't have an allergy, and I started cranking out picture after picture like a maniac. It was like 30 years of not painting suddenly wanted to come out.
Exploded out.
It did, yeah. I mean, Um, so that's why I call it Pictures of Destiny, because I felt this is a part of my destiny I want to do. So I always had it in me, and I've never really pushed it to the degree that
Mhm.
I needed to, and now is the time. And I'm connecting it with the music. So we have a 360-degree image, and some of the paintings are also directly related to my book, In Search of the Alpha Law. So it's all like one big hologram. Um, Now, the second half of the show is completely different because it's band based with a full band, and it's um, early classic rock. And it's devoted mainly to the anniversary of 2 early Scorpions albums, which were done exactly 50 years ago. And that's in
Oh wow.
Trance and Virgin Killer. They were done in 75 and 76. So the second half of my show is celebrating that because it's part of my history.
Right.
And it's also what people know me for from these days. They don't know my artwork or my new stuff, you know. So
Right.
I don't want to overdo it with 3 hours of new stuff, you know. That might be a bit much. So I think, yeah, let's have some fun and games in the second half and play something that they know and
Right.
relate to. And it works beautifully because we've done this in Japan, and the Japanese audiences are not easy pushover audiences. They are very critical, extremely good listeners. And it was just my best Japanese tour so far. The reception was tremendous, and I was kind of hoping for it at the back of my mind, but by far it surpassed my
Yeah.
wildest expectations. Because Japanese audiences are not easily excited. They normally sit,
Yeah.
they listen, then you get this a little bit, and that's it. You know, this time
Oh
it
my
was,
God, that'd be so
yeah,
hard.
it was like an American audience. They went for it.
Oh wow.
And someone said the concert was like a complete crescendo from the beginning to the end, going up and up and up. And it was. And we could feel it on stage, you know. We played with orchestra musicians, young musicians from the Tokyo College of Music who were absolutely fabulous. It was so nice having them on stage.
Yeah.
And they loved it too, because it was a completely new challenge for them. So it was great, and this is what we're bringing now. You know, we're bringing this to America, and yeah, and I'm really looking forward to it.
That is okay. So I got a couple questions just from that alone. So first off, the
Yeah,
amount of
now I'm
energy.
confusing you already because we're talking about two completely different subjects at the
I
same time.
know, but we can tie
That's
them together.
it. That's the
No,
multifaceted thing, isn't it?
well, it is, but you're an artist, and I've always looked at you as an artist. I mean, I came into you through Scorpions, like most people in the '80s, as I'm 55, so I was a young rock guy. This early Scorpions, that was just yeah. And you're playing just that was it though, because I also liked Hendrix and that kind of rock too. So it was easy to be a fan of yours after Scorpions, all the Electric Sun stuff. For me, it was like yes. So I didn't feel like I lost something because they got another guitar player that was fantastic, and they kept on. We got two artists then. It's
Yeah.
separated. So, but
Yeah.
one of the things I love about you as an artist is the other stuff you do in your orchestration. I'm happy to see that you are doing both because as much as I love you doing the Scorpion stuff, I love to see you doing other stuff because of the artist you are. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And it's just not enough time for you, and that is totally immersive. And I don't know where you get the energy if you have like some kind of endorsement from like Red Bull to do 2 sets a night at this point.
Uh-huh.
Are they like an hour and a half set? Like, where are you getting that? Like, oxygen being dropped down to you? That's amazing. That's a
Yeah,
long show.
I do. I mean, you know, I have to time myself because I'm always an early bird. I'm usually on the tour bus. I'm usually the first in the morning and the last in the
Mhm.
evening. I do both. So I on tour, I don't get enough sleep, full stop. Particularly in the first 10 days. It always takes
Yeah.
some time in America, and it builds up, and then it's a constant lack of sleep until I finally find a rhythm that works. So to cut a long story short, for me, playing in the late evenings is not
Hmm.
really, you're not getting the best out of me. When we play in Japan, we're playing at 7 o'clock, 7:30, so everybody they can get their trains
Yep.
at night, and I'm much better then, you know. So what I do in order to deal with this problem, I always take a nap before the show. If I don't have an, and that nap
Yeah.
makes a huge difference because I'm sleeping for maybe 10, 20 minutes, maximum
Yeah.
30, but that makes all the difference. And then my mind is fresh to do the 3 hours.
Hmm.
So, and
That's common,
because we're doing VIP events, you know, and all that. So it's, yeah, it's a lot of concentration is needed.
It's amazing. But I mean, like a lot of your peers actually do take naps now in the middle of the day because Everyone
I've always
realizes
done that.
it's smart because your health is paramount to your performance. I'm a big fan of proponents of I think concerts should move to matinees now at this point, so we can all get a good show in. Maybe afterwards, go to a nice big dinner afterwards,
Why
and then go home and
not?
rest. Like have the show, then a nice
You know,
dinner, and then go to bed.
there were some famous classical musicians. I mean, Horowitz, or yeah, I think it was Vladimir Horowitz, a fantastic piano player. I think he only played at 5 in the afternoon on a Sunday or something like that.
That's beautiful.
You know, Rubinstein was similar, and of course, then yeah, and then he was like at the peak of what he could do.
Yeah.
You know, I very often don't have that luxury. Sometimes I'm hitting the stage and I'm actually already tired. You know, it happens, and then sometimes it is a bit of a struggle. You know, you really need to put your concentration cap on, and that's the only time when I notice my age. Because when I was maybe 30, 40 years younger, my concentration went forever and peak, you know, I could just keep it right there. Now, when I'm tired, I feel the difference, you know, and then sometimes my concentration slips a little bit. It's not a big deal, but that's where I notice the difference. You know, I'm not kind of as as indestructible as before.
Do you think? I think well, because your diet, you being a vegetarian, has you
Yeah.
much more in tune into your body, and I think that's why you're way healthier, and you can
Oh yeah,
have more energy.
I don't doubt at all that it's healthier because particularly nowadays the meat is very often pumped full of all sorts of hormones.
Right.
It is tough on the digestion, and I mean, I've never been a vegetarian for health reasons. It was purely because I hated the idea of being responsible for killing animals, you know.
Mhm.
One day that struck me so hard, I think when I was 20 or 21. And then I thought, no, I'm not doing that anymore. And for me, it was easy because I'm not one of these people who crave meat. You know,
Right.
there are a lot of people who try to become vegetarian or vegan for health reasons, and then it's very hard because they see their neighbor, other guy's eating the steak, you know, and they get some rabbit food, which often it is, unfortunately, particularly when you're vegan. And then after a couple of weeks, they say, "No, I've had enough of this. Where's my McDonald's, you know, or whatever." And I
Yeah.
never had that problem. You know, to me, eating meat is just yucky. So it's easy to stay away from it. But I
Yeah.
do understand when people crave it. When I was a kid, I loved it. You know, I had no problem eating it because I didn't, my mind was different then, you know.
Right.
So I understand all that. I mean, the hardest
But you're
vegan, you know, because I'm not a vegan. It would be impossible on the road. In order to really have a proper vegan diet, you need to know exactly what you're doing, and
Mhm.
it's quite an effort. And most people cannot cook that way. It usually tastes pretty horrible. So it's really difficult. And so when people go vegan, cold turkey from meat eating, very often it fails because they're over challenging themselves.
Yep.
As they start vegetarian, at least you still get like eggs and cheese and stuff like that, dairy, then it's not so difficult, you know. But then everybody says, no, you got to go vegan. And then they fail, you know, and it's not surprising because it's very
It's hard. It's hard. My kid is a vegetarian
oh,
ever since they were in school, elementary school. On their own, they just decided that for animal reasons, and I'm a big meat eater, but I also love the idea of not because I love animals. I wish I
mm,
could not eat meat. Delicious. Like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
hard. But the amount of effort my child puts into cooking meals and finding the balance, and my wife, and there's a lot I don't think people realize. It's like you're a chemist or I could get an alchemy set trying to because a lot of the substitutions and the foods and the recipes, it's a lot of work. So I want to give you props for that. But I also think it's
Well,
paramount
vegetarian
to your health.
for me it's not so difficult. I tend to cook my own stuff at home, and I'm very quick with it. I know what I know what I'm doing, and
Yeah.
it's not a big deal. Vegan would be a big deal, you know,
Yeah.
and that's the big difference. That's why I'm not an advocate, although I think it's the best way to go. But for me, it would be completely impractical, and I would probably end up being sick on the road. It's hard enough being a vegetarian on the road, particularly when you hit countries like Spain, Greece, or certain other countries which are very meat-based, and then
Yeah.
all you end up is getting a bowl of rice, you know? And
That's what I was going to ask you. Like,
oh,
touring has gotten so different because, like, my kid has the same problem. Like, if you go to a party or whatever, it's the same issue with, like, oh, here's your vegan thing. It's a salad or it's a burrito with
yeah.
rice, nothing else. But touring, I mean, a few places have gotten better with vegetarian food in the past couple of years, but not like you need. So I imagine, I was going to say, touring is going to be almost impossible
No,
to,
it's,
to,
no,
to
it's possible. You just need to know what you're doing, and it is a bit of an effort, you know, and yeah. But anyway, it's
it's,
just
it,
it's you know, it is a bit of a sacrifice, and to me, it is important to make sacrifices for certain things that you believe in.
mhm.
Otherwise, there's no gain. And then, you know, if we always let it all hang out and just do everything we want, we end up being like, you know, just morons, you know. So there needs to be a little bit of self-restraint every once in a while, you know.
Do
So
you still practice? Well, and because you do a lot of restraint and control when you do you find a balance now because you do art and you do your guitar and you're preparing for different things? Are you practicing? Is your practice still part of? Are you composing as you practice? Like, what's the process there? And then what do you do if you got an idea? Are you going to stop and paint? Are you going to sketch an idea so you can go back to guitar? Because if you're creating, I imagine the process doesn't stop with one
when
thing.
I like last year when I did a lot of paintings, I had a routine where I would paint, go into my art studio in the mornings, from 10 maybe, and I did maybe till 2 o'clock just painting. In the afternoons, I did scoring my symphony for a couple of hours, and in the evenings I would do some composition. Um, but practicing, I never do. I used to practice a lot when I was a kid. I mean, you know, like all kids, 3 hours,
Right.
4 hours, 5 hours. When I studied classical guitar when I was 15 or 16, I clocked in 6 hours sometimes. Hardly ever more, because I think it's completely counterproductive.
Right.
There came a point when I was technically so proficient on the guitar that I didn't feel the need to play
Mhm.
any faster or any more this. In the end, mm, the only thing that matters is really what you say and how you say it, not how
Right.
many notes you can play per second. So once I had reached that stage where I could pretty much play anything I could think of or within reason,
Mhm.
you know, the technical stuff didn't interest me anymore. Of course, there were certain moments, certain steps I need to take. I remember when I first had to do Vivaldi's Four Seasons, the four violin concertos on the
Yep.
guitar, in the right kind of pitch and range with the orchestra. It was a challenge because I had agreed to it on the phone call. And once I thought it was a great idea. Then once I actually looked at the physical score, I thought, oh boy, this is pretty unplayable. Or a lot of it was because it was written for the violin. So I needed to find a way to do it in the right fingering, and it took a little while. And then once you have that fingering, then it's doable, you know. Um, so if I had a concert tomorrow where I have to play the Four Seasons, for instance, with the orchestra,
Mhm.
it's all in the back of my mind. I would have to refresh a few runs here and there, you know, and but it wouldn't take long to
Right.
get gears.
I think I need a new way to rephrase it because I think when I talk to artists like you, it's not so much about practicing your notes. Sometimes some artists don't play the guitars; they have to like relearn their music, get their fingers loose, prepared for the tour, go over some things and changes, stuff like that. Or just sometimes some artists just like to play
My
every day.
fingers always have the memory. I still have the memory from 50 years ago, whatever. It's never an issue.
That's quite a
Um,
gift.
It's
That's a
all
gift.
It is because most guitar players practice an awful lot, and it would drive me crazy. I don't have the patience anymore. I don't like repeating things. And when I was a kid, it was fine. I could play the same run 10 times in a row and not get
Yeah.
bored. You know? So what I tend to do is if I have to prepare or have written a complex piece of music, it's more a mind map, you know. I
Okay.
will figure out which fingerings and then I'll play it a few times. And each time it gets better. It's all in the mind. You know, I remember, for instance, when there was COVID, I had this sudden urge not to play the guitar. And I didn't pick it up for 2 years straight. I wrote the book instead. The guitar was sitting there. I played my piano in the mornings, but I did not touch the guitar. And I guess I just wanted to see what happened. I tell you what happened. We had a gig in Spain, Bilbao, a festival, and we had 3 rehearsals. And I
Right.
deliberately didn't pick it up until the rehearsal. And the first rehearsal, the first run through was a little shaky. I remember that, and my fingers really hurt because I didn't have calluses.
Hmm.
And then we played it again. It was a little better. The third run through was much better. And then the next day, it felt better. By the third day, it was still painful. Then 2 days later, we had the show, and the show was brilliant. It worked, you know, and it's because it's all in the mind. I mean, my mind was still working, and the fingers are just an extension of the mind. And my mind is geared in such a way that I don't have any blockages. The music goes straight through. There is no question mark anywhere. It
I
just
do
goes.
think you are
And
definitely
then
sorry,
it's
we step on
very
you.
easy. Then it's all very easy. You know, it only becomes difficult when you're making it difficult in your mind.
Did you say, I thought we talked about this last time, you see in colors sometimes the way you map things in your brain seems a little bit different than most people to begin with. So
Yeah,
the way your
I'm
structures.
very color oriented. That's very true. You know, that's very true. And I've always been that way. Um, you know, some people call it synesthesia. I have a good deal of that, but it's not something that's inescapable for me. Some people,
Right.
they cannot switch it off. I can literally actually tune into that frame of mind, but it's not switched on all the time. If that makes sense, maybe it doesn't make sense.
Well, the switching part makes sense, but I don't understand the like how the process. If you have words that would be like for those of us that don't understand, don't have that, how it would apply to you for music, the colors with like learning or playing it, like what you see or how it
Well, like
translates.
but if you have like an A, you know, to me it's like a red note, you
Okay.
know. The B flat would be like an orange note, and they go chromatically until the 13th note is red again, but it's at twice the level of brightness, you know. And
Wow.
the deeper you go into the octaves, the darker it gets until it becomes all the colors become like really brown at the very bottom end, and which is the limit of our spectrum, you know. But each color has a certain meanings and it translates directly into emotions. And we all can feel these emotions. Like every person will agree. I mean, every kind of quote unquote physically, mentally healthy person will agree
Hmm.
that red is extremely active, it's warm, it's hot. These are primal sensations. Blue is always cool and a little bit more passive,
Yep.
although it can be active when you have enough energy radiating through it. But the natural inclination and the natural feeling for us is when we see red, it's big, it's close, and then blue is always far away. That is, blue is calming, red is disturbing, energizing, all that, you
Yeah.
know. Red is the beginning, the alpha. Blue is like the omega. Those two, they are what makes the universe go, you know. And in between you have all the other colors, you know, in between you have the yellow in the middle. So you have the blue, the warm spectrum at the beginning, then you have the hot spectrum, and it goes into the cool with green is still warm, again going to the blue spectrum, which is quite large. And then you have A flat, which is the last note before the A, that's purple, which combines red and blue, and then it's red again. It's always a journey. Every melody and every step through the octave of 12 notes is a journey. And every journey has a meaning, and it translates itself directly into emotion for us. When we hear a certain musical step, we will have, it creates a certain sensation in us. And very often it's very similar with people, and that's why great music and great songs work so well with so many people, because we always can feel it in unison. We can all feel very similar things when it comes to that. When each of us, when we have a lemon and we bite the lemon, most people would think it's sour, and it is sour. So that's it, yeah? Or
that's a community feeling.
Something that's bitter, and it's the same with the notes of the music. To me, a C is sour. It's cleansing. It's vitamin C. It's very cleansing. It's very yellow, very bright, very in your face, Then you have a note that's bitter. That's an F sharp, You have a note that's salty. That's a G. And and it is salty. Or if you listen deeply enough into it, you will hear like a certain air, because it's an airy note. And it almost feels like you're sitting on a cloud on top of an ocean. You can smell the salt. And that always happens when you hear that note. And so those are the kind of things I'm talking about, But we're talking about synesthesia. It always happens if you really listen into the center of the note. If you're just on the surface, you may not get it. And that's the same with me. If I'm just superficially listening, then the meaning does not come through in the same way as if I'm really going into it, And when you're doing music and you're performing, I really get into it. When I play, I see the note in front of me. I see it in 3D. I feel it with my whole body, and I'm shaping it as it happens in slow motion, and watching it from the outside at the same time. Letting it bloom from the inside and watching it from the outside. It's a two-way thing. And that's what happens in my mind when I'm playing these things. And I guess it's similar with most people. Only I've thought about it a lot, and I've analyzed it, and I've meditated on it. That's why I'm able to talk about it in a way that makes sense.
Thank you. That's a fantastic explanation.
Don't really think about these things. A lot of people don't want to think about these things. Somebody like Paul McCartney would say, "Oh, I don't want to know any of that because it might take away the magic." Fair enough. For me, it adds to the magic, because I love to know how things work. And even if we don't quite know it, it's still nice to think you know it.
I think it's amazing, because thank you for sharing that. That's an excellent explanation, and I've always been very interested in that. And to hear that, Paul can get away with it. He's written a couple good songs, so if he wants to write his songs that way, it works for him. But to me, the way you're doing it, it sounds like you're very attuned on so many different levels in your brain to process music and art, and that's why it makes sense that you're very multimedia. You're not one-dimensional, because you don't think one-dimensional. You create in multi-dimensions.
I always think in many different dimensions, and I think most people do. But I do it deliberately.
Right.
I do it deliberately.
Is it a way? Does that help you? This could actually lead into you talk about new music too. So with you being able to play like that and think like that, does it help you write your music when you're writing your own music and playing?
Yeah, of course.
Does it help you craft it?
It's all one. Yeah, of course. These things are entangled in each other. They feed each other. The more you know about certain things, the better, as long as you don't let it get in the way of it. You know, it's no good trying to write a new piece of music and then you're starting to overanalyze it. You
Well,
know,
that was my question right there. Like, like if
they
you record, you have too many
no,
guitar pedals. It's a crazy.
it's usually completely subconscious, and
Okay.
that those the best things happen that way. However, then if there is something that is maybe not quite right afterwards, and you start to analyze, and then your mathematical mind comes into it, and it can be very helpful, because then you see a certain something that maybe your subconscious could not see. And
Wow.
so you have the analytical ability and the emotional. And those are the two big pillars of music. You have and that's the amazing thing for human beings. We have the ability to feel music purely emotionally, but we can also understand it mathematically, because music in the end is also mathematics and numbers. That may sound very sober, but if you listen to the music of Bach, you will understand that it is so, And I find it beautiful that music presents these two aspects, because we are exactly the same. We have a soul and we have a mind, and the mind is basically like the guardian of the soul, the one who translates the inner impulses of the souls here into this physical realm. And not just the physical, but also the metaphysical. When two people speak, many things are going on that are way beyond the physical, and the mind kind of directs all that in a magical symphony of, energies. Then you have the emotions. And the emotions are our horses. They are our powers. And they're deep down, they're connected to our heart and then your innermost spirit. And emotions don't lie. They give you what it is,
Yeah.
And they all come from one single point, the original, strongest emotion, the one master emotion of all that you find in every cell of the universe is love. And that is also a frequency, an all-pervading frequency. And all the other emotions are basically the children of love, even hatred, which is like the opposite or absence, but it derives from that. They're all variations on different levels, the positive and the negative ones. So I always say, and I think Plato said this many, many years ago, we have two horses in us. We have a white horse and the black horse. Those are the emotions. And, our mind is kind of the charioteer trying to, make sense of it. The black horse has tremendous power and force and is
Right.
headstrong everything. But it is quite thick. It is not very intelligent, particularly not emotionally intelligent. The white horse is the opposite.
Okay.
But these two are working as a team in tandem. And if you, as the mastermind, if your mind manages to make peace between these two and really kind of have the reins in such a way that you have an organic whole, then you've got something, you know? Yeah,
That's
and
amazing.
Star Wars, they would talk at the dark side and that's
Yeah.
Star
The
Wars.
yin and the yang, and
And
wow.
it is exactly like that, I believe. It is exactly like that. We all have the capacity to do both and to be both. However, each person is, I think, we are all tuned in a certain way. Don't ask me why. Some people naturally lean more to one and some
Hmm.
naturally lean more to the other. I've made my choice a long time ago, probably before birth. I don't want the dark side. I know it's there, I know it's also in me, but I don't want it to run the show, although it sometimes does. We all have done stupid things in our lives. I certainly have, and but this is the beauty of being a human being. We have the potential to grow and learn, and it never stops. I feel like an eternal student, and so that's true of many of us. Some people never learn. They stop when they're 20 and they think, oh, I know it all and I don't need to change, But
I wish I knew what I knew back then that I know now.
exactly, that's
I
what
say that
I
all the
always
time. I'm like,
say.
oh my God, if I could talk to 20-year-old me right now,
Yes.
I'd whack him in the head. What is you doing?
Yeah. Yeah. I feel exactly like that,
You
And
are,
the best is when you have this talk show and you're watching some of the people and then they say, do you have any regrets? And then a lot of people say, no, I would do exactly everything the same again. I go,
if you
yes,
can
I
see
have
what you
some.
did and not say it as a regret, then that's a regret right there.
Yeah.
Ugh.
But but some people obviously mean it differently. They say, no, everything I did was for a reason, and or even all the other stuff, I needed to learn that. And that is true. I think the same,
That feels like acceptance, though. Then if you could do a do-over, you could do it a little differently. I think with you, what I really enjoy about you, and I thank you for that great explanation, because a lot of us enjoy a lot of those feelings, but our understanding is much more civilian and why we feel these feelings. Where you've been able to tune into a better way, and the way you can express them and share them is like, to me, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. That's great. That's the definition of what I couldn't understand. Well, I feel these things, but you've been able to focus in and tune in with your skill and your, not just your talent, but your brain, and you have your heart to be complete. That it still goes into your art, but it goes in other parts of your life, to lead who you are, and you've always led by that light, and I think that's one of the things that has always drawn me as a fan of you and your music. And I think your music, go back to your music, does reflect that, though. In the playing, it feels like it has that kind of energy that I can't explain it, because it doesn't sound like anything else I've ever heard before. You're playing, of course, guitar sounds similar, but there's something in your notes, in the chording, and the way you play, the frequencies, feels a little bit different. And that probably just because the way you look at it, you play it is different.
I've
Like, you think
always,
different.
you're picking up on something that I've always done quite deliberately. I've always put these energies into the notes from the beginning. I don't know, maybe like just like a cook who uses certain amount of salt
Right.
or pepper. I've always had the urge to put some healing energies into the music, even when I was playing something that is essentially brutal, which sometimes you
Hmm.
do on the electric guitar with the
Of course,
screaming.
it's
But
fun.
there needs to be, yeah, but I always feel that there needs to be, or there should be, or there ought to be, in my book, always a higher kind of octave behind it, some justification for what you're doing, and it
Okay,
needs to be an authentic justification.
that
That's,
makes sense to me now.
so there is like a clockwork, and there are, how shall I say this, a threshold of certain things. So I'm gauging the notes that I'm playing, and I'm giving them, and I'm judging, is this the right one or this the right one? And in this, I'm usually following some kind of magnetic light that's up there, which tells me what to do. It's actually
Hmm.
quite simple, but I've honed myself to listen to that thing, basically, like we were saying, right and wrong. Which is the best possible next note, right or wrong?
Yep.
And if you, I always think we all have this sense in us to make these decisions instinctively, or maybe through calculation. And I've honed myself to, like a sniffer dog that goes after the rabbit, That's what
Hmm.
I do with when I'm improvising. Where's the next note coming from? What is it? And I see it, I hear it, and I'm going there. And and very often it works. Not always.
It
Um,
feels deliberate to me. I have autism, so when I hear things, and it's always hard for me to explain to other people, being on a spectrum, when I hear things on the musical spectrum, sometimes to me it's like a good song, it's a good riff, and I can acknowledge it's technically good. I'm like, there's something missing something. But that's the difference. Like when I hear your stuff, it makes the paths make sense to me differently.
if
And
you're
the way you
on
explain
the
it,
spectrum, then that should make a lot of sense to
it
you
does.
in
Now,
different ways,
hmm
and that can be actually quite an advantage in certain ways.
well, and that's what I'm saying. All your explanations is tying it in for me because, like, when I can't, the words I wouldn't have to. When I hear things differently, I would just go from production. I hear things differently than everybody else. It's good or bad, whatever. It's what it is. But that's what I'm saying. When I hear your music, to me, it feels, and there's a couple other guitarists who do it. When you play, it's not just in your fingertips. It feels like it's the perfect puzzle. Like it was laser cut perfectly. Like it makes sense. There was just no other way of doing it because the way it fits. That's your songs sound like that to me. Whether it's from the early rock Scorpion days to Electric Sun to the orchestra stuff, to, stuff, the videos online, it feels like it's just like a journey, like an audio journey.
It's always a journey with me, always. That's all it is, a journey. And as I said, it's a journey through the octave.
Yeah,
And not just one octave, but the octave of life. And life works according to the octave principle as well. We are born in the beginning of the octave and we end at the other end, alpha to omega. It's the same root note. And in between, the life unfolds through the rainbow spectrum in various octaves. Every 12 years, the 13th year, we enter a new
yeah.
octave. And each octave brings new challenges because we're always traveling through the octave. The beginning of the octave is always warm,
Hmm.
dangerous, fast, powerful. Then it goes into the green zone, and then in the blue zone, everything becomes different, just like with life. When we get born, the first 12 years is childhood, and it's a complete rainbow spectrum, starting in the red, ending in the purple in the 12th year. In the 13th year, you're entering the second octave. And guess what? Very often, that's when puberty strikes. Very,
The
very
red,
exact
anger, the hot,
chaos,
passion.
everything,
Oh,
and
wow.
then you go through that spectrum until you're 24. And then 25, you're going into a more mellow, the third octave. And it carries on like that, and every octave, but you're still in the warm zone of the spectrum. Once you go past midlife, you go into the blue end of the spectrum with all that entails. Things slow down, they're more distant, you gain wisdom, but you
Right,
don't have quite the same passion and stupidity that you had in the beginning
right.
because the knowledge is in the second half of the west of the part. The
You could
first
tame the
half,
dragon. You tame the dragon a little bit.
exactly. The first half of the octave is the male masculine part. The second half is the female part. It's always slightly higher than the masculine. But the masculine has to travel through the female, then you create a new octave together. And the game
Oh,
is
totally.
always the same.
As you say, I was just like thinking about those years of my life. That's some heavy stuff, man, because it fits. That's wild.
It
That's
fits for
amazing.
most, it fits for most people. Or it
That
fits
is
roughly for
insane.
most people. Yeah.
You are amazing. Thank you. You shared a lot of good things with me
That's
today.
that's what my book is all about.
I've yet to get it. It is on my list, but it's a
you
big book.
can't get it, it's sold out.
Oh,
But
see,
but
but
we're going to make a new edition, hopefully before Christmas. It'll be the second edition, you
all right, I'm
know.
gonna have to put that on my list because I wanted to get it last time. and I just didn't have the funds to get it. And I was like, I will get to it at some point
Yeah,
because
it's not cheap because it costs a lot to print. But yeah,
I think
just
the value's there. It's not about that. It's just
Christmas present.
that's I got to be good to Santa this year. I
Yeah.
do want to say you mentioned new music though, and I want to end on this. Are we going to see new music recorded in a form of live music, DVDs, live stuff, studio
We are
albums?
working on a lot now, and there are a couple of things in the pipeline. All these things that we're playing live now with Pictures of Destiny, we have already recorded large parts of the orchestra, but we have not yet recorded vocals or guitars.
Hmm.
So we're working on that without a very specific timeline. I think the first thing that will happen, the first thing that will come out in the new year is a live DVD a recording which we did in Japan in 2019. It was a celebration of my 50th anniversary of being on stage,
Hmm.
which was actually technically in 2018. That's when we started that tour. And that was a comprehensive 3-hour program, which had a lot of electric sun. It had some flamenco playing by me.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, and it had also Scorpion songs, and we had none other than Rudolf Schenker on guitar in Tokyo, and it's all captured on camera. And I've just been to Hanover for 3 days. We've started editing it, and the footage is pretty epic. I was so pleased. I
I'm
had
excited.
how good it was. I thought, okay, let's see what we have there. And I
Yeah,
was really blown away, which is quite rare because I'm usually very critical, also self-critical. But there I thought, wow, we've got something here. And, it's in the making, and I think the release should be beginning of next year. Then I've written a Hiroshima Symphony, 30-minute piece with orchestra and band, and we've just been offered to perform that in in Tokyo with a big orchestra at the end of April. So I hope that happens because we did the premiere in Hiroshima
Mhm.
exactly 80 years after the bomb was dropped there.
Wow,
It's a big piece of music, and I think it's one of my best. Um, yeah, I can't wait to see that come to fruition. And when when we play it, we will also record it and put it on the market.
excellent. I thank you. So people, I'm gonna have the link on the podcast and the streaming and the YouTube for your website. Your website is, for the Marvel universe, you got the Uli universe, the Uliverse. It has everything on the
That
page
was
that he
not
does.
my idea.
I think I love it. I
First.
love puns. No, no, I love
I
puns.
mean, I thought it was kind of funny, but
Oh, come on, it's great. Own it, Uli.
sometimes
Come
I
on.
question it.
It's too good. If it's too good, it would be a crime, actually. It'd be a cosmic crime to not use that
Really?
pun.
Okay. I thought it was maybe a little too pretentious.
No, it's fun. Your website, seriously, I'll have the link. People, all the stuff's on there.
Yeah.
His videos, his information, his bio, all the tour dates he's
It
going to
needs to
do.
be updated. Our website is not very much up to date. Unfortunately, we're working on that. But yeah, most of it will be there, at least in
Right.
a rudimentary way.
Yeah. And from there, you can follow, of course, Facebook will probably have, updates daily and monthly, whatever he's doing live and stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
Patreon, Patreon is the channel it's the only social media channel that I actually do myself, because
okay.
I don't do Facebook or any of the others, because most of it I don't understand. Maybe
That's
I don't
okay.
want to understand.
You don't want to.
Patreon is the one that I do, and so if people want some closer insight, they can go to my Patreon, and it's if they want to, it can also be for free. So initially, it was
Yeah.
used to always cost money, but now we also have quite a few people who come in for free, and I don't mind that. I just like the community of
Yep.
it's more close-knit community. It's not like Facebook, where it's like
It's garbage.
Yes, you said it.
It's garbage. I only use it to share my music stuff, and I'm
I
out.
mean,
I'm
it's
in and I'm
good for
out.
families and stuff like that. I appreciate that it works in the close
Yeah,
circle, but for what we do, it's also a huge ripoff. They
I agree.
charge for you have maybe so and so many thousand followers, and then you post something and only 1,000 see it,
Mhm.
unless you pay for it. And it's like um, it started out with the usual good intentions, and now it's just a brutal marketing thing, just like everything else. Just
Everything is now, and I think even if you
they're
do
all
pay
like
for it,
that.
it becomes like background music in an elevator, where you hear it and you hum it, but you got the elevator, you're like, what was I just humming? I don't even
Yeah,
think, you know what I'm saying? I don't even think we see things as much on social media as we think we are. Even if you pay for it, I don't. I always encourage artists, find one thing you enjoy doing, and I think Patreon is great, or if you do a YouTube channel, whatever the artist does, and put it out at your convenience once in a while. You don't need all this other garbage out there. Just do
so
what you do and focus on your art, and don't worry about the people's telling you need
yeah,
this, you need TikTok. You
yeah,
don't. You're an artist. You create. You have one source. The fans will come.
yeah, 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 I guess
So,
so. Yeah.
Uli, once again, thank you. I
No,
look
I
forward to our
think
next talk.
it was an interesting interview for me. At least you didn't ask the same old questions. So
It's
that's
been asked. You know. Let's do this. I challenge all interviews moving forward to start asking him different questions. You're a smart man. Everything's been asked. Let's find new questions for you and challenge your brain.
you didn't ask why did you leave the Scorpions?
I don't need to because it's
Good.
obvious. It's
Thank you.
obvious. If
I've
somebody doesn't
answered
know,
it a million times, and I'm sick of it.
I want to
So,
follow the time
no,
frame because
thank you.
your time is precious too. And I thank you for giving some time today.
All right, no, thank you. Good luck to you.